Hey guys, this is a very special episode of The Grey Escape. I'm Natalie Gray, and this show is brought to you by westcoastlondon.com. Whoa, a sponsor. Kind of. It's me. This show is brought to you by me. You guys know from listening to plenty of other episodes, hopefully, that besides being entrenched in comedy, I'm also an artist. And to pay my way over the years, I've spray-painted T-shirts in cool places like Ottawa, Canada, Toronto, Los Angeles, and most recently Covent Garden, London, where I launched my own line of hand spray-painted T-shirts and beanies with one-of-a-kind original designs inspired by people like you who are fans of stuff. Every single thing is individually hand-painted by me and can ship anywhere in the world. So go to westcoastlondon.com, and if you enter coupon code ESCAPE, you can save 10% off your order. Do I sound a bit excited? Well, this is a very special episode, and I'll tell you why right after this. It has been a big week. First of all, I got to see Hamlet at the Barbican Centre in London and my friend Morag Siller doing some Shakespeare with Benedict Cumberbatch. Of course, she was amazing. The show was amazing. Special hats off to everyone involved, especially phenomenal set and lighting designers who made the show an even more spectacular thing for fans. What a treat for fans of Shakespeare, fans of Sherlock. Because when you're a fan of something, when you have something you really love, you look forward to it, you enjoy it, it adds a richness to your life. Today's guest doesn't just have someone who loves him. He has millions of people. Although many are around the world, in particular in the UK, this man has a career spanning not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, a career spanning 60 years in entertainment. If you could capture all of the laughter, the happiness and the joy that he has brought to live audiences, television viewers and listeners of his songs, you could light up the sky as he has lit up our hearts. Desmond Bernard O'Connor was born the 12th of January 1932 in Stepney in the East End of London to Harry and Maud O'Connor. He is now 83 and rather than be slowed down by age, he just completed his second book and just last Sunday he performed to a sold-out crowd at his home club, the London Palladium, where he donated his talents along with Jimmy Tarbuck and raised over £44,000 for the Royal Variety Charity. For those of you not in the UK, for you to really grasp and understand the scope of this man's fame and legacy, you need to think of the likes of Bob Hope or Johnny Carson, and then combine them with the likes of Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett, because he's both a comedian and a singer, with a string of successful TV shows under his belt, including the legendary Des O'Connor Tonight, which ran for almost 26 years. Now, as you can imagine, when you try to line up an interview with a celebrity, especially a big celebrity, it's a very delicate task. It wasn't just Hamlet that had me thinking of the question to be or not to be. I wasn't 100% sure this was even going to happen until the very moment I was sat with two rather precariously placed microphones in the home of Des O'Connor and his beautiful wife Jodie, whom he's been with for 25 years, and their lovely 11-year-old son Adam. When you go to someone's home, obviously you can't control the setup. So at some point you might hear a little bit of noise, technical issues, but I promise it'll be quick and it'll be worth it. I could not be more proud to introduce today's guest. And I'll be honest, I was a little nervous. I mean, wouldn't you be? So here we go. Here's me and a slightly dicey mic setup, speaking with true entertainer and British national treasure, Mr. Des O'Connor. Right, if you say something now, I should see a little level.
Something now.
Yeah, that's good. Right. Okay, I can see levels, so...
I may not be looking at you, but...
Oh, yeah, that's all right.
How did you keep the mic in the face?
It's a fairly distant. This is an unusual mic holding technique.
It could look very rude, but...
It's but you're a pro, so whatever way you want to handle that microphone.
I'll handle it any way I want to.
So I've just seen your amazing show at the London Palladium. How many times have you done the Palladium?
Well, I've appeared there quite a few times, actually. I'm going to keep on doing it until I get it right. 1,392 times that was.
Wow.
Yeah, and here's the worst bit of all, Natalie. The 1,000th commemorative plaque was presented to me on February the 5th, 1972.
Wow.
Must have been my father. Couldn't have been me. But it's lovely. It's nice to have all these plaques.
So when you just did the show nearly 1,400 times, how does it feel? I mean, when you get up in the morning, are you just like, right, got to help him with his homework, cook the lunch, do the Palladium?
No, it's just getting up. Getting out of bed is the hard bit. But once you're up and about and you have your cup of tea, I'm writing a lot. I enjoy writing, especially comedy, and I'm writing books at the moment. That comedy book there that you see there, Laughter Lines, that was actually outselling the Poet Laureate last year when it came out. So there's always something to aim at. That's the nicest thing about show business. You're never at the top. You are never the governor. There's always some other rung to climb, some other step that you can improve yourself on. It wouldn't matter what. I'm sure Frank Sinatra was at some time saying, "What else can I do?" You know.
Right.
So it's a lovely. It's not we're not doing surgery or anything, but we're getting standing ovations. Not many surgeons get that, you know, which they should get.
Right. I know they don't get standing ovations. Was Frank Sinatra one of your sort of heroes?
No, he was a surgeon. Frank Sinatra, yeah, well, as you probably know because you were into the Palladium, it's the only song that I do every night. It's one that I saw him do in a little club down in the strip part of Vegas when there was only a handful of people in the room, and I don't think anybody knew he was in there. And it was just a marvellous moment just to see him get up, and I think he sang a song for himself. But yeah, he was a wonderful performer, wonderful.
You never had him on your show, did you?
Well, we had him booked. We had the two that we didn't have booked, and I'm going to show off now. It's easier to tell you who wasn't on the show rather than who was on the show, because it ran forever practically. We booked Frank Sinatra, and then Lee Salters was his PA, and I was using Lee Salters for a while. He was from Los Angeles, and unfortunately he got a bronchitis or something, Frank, and pulled out. Well, that's what they told us, you know. But he was definitely booked in red on the board, as was Michael Jackson. But then he started to dangle babies out of windows and got some adverse publicity, and one way or another, he backed off. So, but most of the people that you want on your show were on the show. It's wonderful.
I bought this with me.
What have you got there?
It's your guest list
Good
from the
Lord.
show.
Do you know something? I haven't even got this. I'd like to have a little look at that later.
You can.
There's a line in the song, to think I did all that, and may I say, not in a shy way. And the other day, they ran a montage of about 500 or 600 people that had been on the show. And I thought, good, oh, yeah, oh, look at this.
Yeah.
I thought, hang on, I did the interview. But it's wonderful. You know, I'm very fortunate. I remember one night doing a show, there was J-Lo on one side and Catherine Zeta-Jones on the other on the couch. And I got paid just for chatting with her. It was wonderful. Now I've been very fortunate.
Well, I think there's some more than good fortune there. I've been learning a lot about you, getting ready for this interview. Is it true that when you were a little boy, you didn't walk for the first 7 years of your life?
Yeah, I had a thing called, but I'm not sure what it was called.
Rickets?
Rickets. See how long ago it was?
Do people even get rickets anymore?
I think they eat them now, packets of rickets. It's vitamin deficiency in the knees and legs. And I couldn't walk till I was about 7. And then it wasn't a long time ago. It was, we were at war with Germany. We were dropping flower bombs on the Kaiser. It was a long time ago. But I finally got to go to Northampton, where we were evacuated from the bombing of London. That's when I suddenly started to walk and run and learn to read and write and manage to educate myself. So it wasn't such a bad start. I mean, the nice thing is there's only one way up from there on in. You know,
Were you literally in a bed in a wheelchair for 7 years?
I was in a wheelchair in and out. Yeah, I more or less lived in the one room, which was all we had, so it probably was for the best thing. Yeah, there's not much I could do, but go to the clinic, go to the hospital, so I didn't get any education, you see. But then when we went to Northampton, regular education was a treat. It was fantastic. And I must have been the only kid that wanted to learn more, wanted to do more lessons. Because at that stage I was bottom of the class, and I managed to work my way up to do very, very well in the final year. So.
And how did you make school friends if you were just in the one room and you didn't have brothers and sisters, right?
Well, the one room was in London, in the East End of London. Then we were evacuated to Northampton, and there we had a proper room.
Come in, Jodie. That's very kind of you. Thank you. Jodie's bringing water.
I don't drink water. Fishes fornicate in
Or
it.
giant vodkas for Des.
Vodkas?
No, I know.
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels
please, do
all
me
the way.
fine.
Yeah. This is nice.
Well, you can have mine as well, because I don't want that.
All right,
Water's not right.
So did you have little school friends then who would come over and visit you?
Well, not in London, not in the East End of London, because they were all too busy. We were all waiting for the sirens and ready to run in the shelter. But once I got into Northampton, then I had regular school friends and regular schooling. And, and by that time I could walk, I'd taken the straps off. I remember my father said, if you can stand up for 5 seconds, you can walk. And each night he would get me walking. That's why I wrote that book, Bananas Can't Fly. But that's a whole nother story.
I mean, were you a happy kid for those 7 years?
Well, my mum said I was, but you don't, whatever you are at any age in your life, I don't think you sort of start comparing your standing or lack of standing with other people that can. You just do it. It's just like you don't know you're poor when you're poor. You just live the life that you've always lived. That's what we did, So no complaints about. I can't look back and feel sorry for myself. In fact, I draw a kind of a blind, if you like, across the past. Any moments I don't like, I don't want to remember, so I just blank them out. Yeah. I think too many of us are worrying about things. Things are never going to happen. Enjoy the life. It's the old cliche is true. You're only here once. It's not a dress rehearsal. Enjoy it.
You seem, since I very first met you, I was going to say, you seem a really positive person. I mean, you seem to have this strength about you and just a faith that it's all going to be all right. Do you think that's accurate, an accurate assessment of you?
Well, I do. I'm not going to get on a soapbox or get sanctimonious, but I do believe that there is someone up there helping me. And if I need help and I've asked for it, I'm not ashamed to say that I have done that. I get it. And I do believe that whatever you want to do in life, you can do. Within reason, there are some things you're not going to be able to do, but you can certainly give it a good go. Give it a try and explore the potential within yourself. A lot of people are a bit scared of that, They're scared of falling down and not getting it right. But there can only be one better way after that. That's standing up and getting it right. So that's what I've tried to do.
It's very unusual, I think, for a comedian to be so positive. I mean, especially...
That's what they say, Natalie. Pagliacci and all of that. I never understood that. All the comics I've ever met, we've laughed together. I remember saying to Les Dawson's an English comedian, I think the comedy itself it turns women on when they laugh. I said, so there must have been a lot of women in your life. He said, I've only ever had one woman outside of marriage, and she was a suffragette and chained to the railings at the time. So I do believe that being able to laugh and see the fun things in life is a positive thing. It's going to help you through the problem times.
What was your reaction when you heard the news of Robin Williams?
Oh, I was sad, because he was lovely. I remember interviewing him, and he'd just come over for Mrs. Doubtfire, and they said he says he told the researchers he can't do a research. He's got time to come in and sit down, but that's it. So I said to the producer, right, he's playing Mrs. Doubtfire, which is, he's playing a woman in this who looks after children. Get a large tray of sandwiches, tea, bone china, beautiful English china. And I'll sit him down. So when I sat him down, I said, would you like a wee cup of tea? He said, oh, I would. So I said, you put the milk in first. He said, and then he was just so wonderful. And what fascinated him was, and we didn't rehearse one line of it. You can't rehearse an interview. You can rehearse a conversation, maybe, but I doubt it. And you certainly can't rehearse an interview without it sounding like it's rehearsed. So he and I just sat down and had a chin wag like you and I are doing about whatever entered the mind. And he was saying he was fascinated that they'd put him in the Savoy Hotel, and he was fascinated by the fact that the hygiene in the hotels, the London hotels, they'd put a piece of white cardboard ring round the toilet seat to show him that no one else had used that particular toilet. And he said he got a mischievous mood on, and he went for a pee-pee, and he took that off, had his pee-pee, put it back on again. And he did that for 4 days. He kept taking it off and put it back on. He said on the 5th day, the chambermaid left a pot of prunes. But he was lovely. I mean, it was sad to lose a man like that. He was a genius. And when he was on form, because he'd have his moments when he wasn't on form, but when he was on form, he was pure gold dust. A very funny man, and sad that we lost him.
I mean, when you met him and you've met other comedians, have you ever picked up on an underlying sort of sadness that lurks deep down, or would you have not even had a clue?
The only person was when we were doing the shows for America, which I did 2 years of it, a replacement for Dean Martin and Perry Como on NBC for worldwide, it was coast to coast. The only one was Phil Silvers, Sergeant Bilko. And I remember the producer, Mort Luckman, who'd already produced shows for Bob Hope. He said to me, we've got Phil Silvers. I hope that works out. I said, what do you mean you hope it works? It's bound to work all right. He said, well, he can be a bit moody. He can get a bit down. If he gets down, don't start trying to please him. Just run with the gag. I said, oh, okay. What happened was about a quarter of an hour before the show, I walked past his dressing room door, and the dressing room door was open. He was just sitting on the bed there, this little bed, with his knees up round his neck practically. And I said, are you all right? And he said, yeah, I'm fine. I thought, no, I'm not supposed to joke with him. So I walked on. I came back about 10 minutes later, and he was still staring into space. I said to him, is there anything wrong? He said, everything's wrong. Have you ever lost someone you love? I said, yeah. He said, do you know what it's like to lose the one person in your world you really love? And I thought, so I said, well, what are you trying to say? He said, I did. It's all over. I'm going to end it all. So I thought, well, I'm going to do a gag here. I said, could you end it all after the show, please? And he went, yeah. He didn't smile, he just said, yeah. When he went on the stage, he was brilliant. It was funny. It was the Phil Silvers, the Sergeant Bilko we knew. But prior to it, very sad indeed.
I mean, I've heard people that you think of as just amazing comedy greats like Spike Milligan and John Cleese as well.
Both of those had their serious moments. I get told off sometimes for laughing too much. I just giggle and laugh at life. It really is something you should enjoy, not see as a drama. And if something goes wrong, that's why I wrote that book of laughter lines there. I got a message, was it from, I believe they run the show in America now called Who Do You Think You Are? But in England, it traces back your ancestry, etc., etc. And I was asked what I do, and I said, how long will that take? And they said, about 6 weeks. I said, oh, I can't do 6 weeks. So I went home and I started to laugh, and I thought, let me see if I can do this. So I started looking at, did some DIY genealogy, but I think I got some of it wrong, because according to me, I'm 103 and my grandma's alive in Hong Kong. No, as stupid as that may sound, silly as it may sound, I suddenly thought, I'm going to write more. Every time something slightly bugs me, it's like when we got off the plane at the airport in New York, funny enough, the security was unbelievable. They took away my nose clippers, saw them as a threat, I suppose. Like I'll burst in the captain's cabin and pull all the hairs out his nose. These are idiotic things, but they make me smile. And you learn to live with the things that could maybe niggle you if you allowed them to.
Do you feel you've been this way your whole life, or has anything ever got you really down?
That's a good question, because I've been married a few times. And marriage isn't fun, and when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But you just have to realise we all make mistakes now and again. I'm not saying I have, but we do. You just have to, and you can both learn from it. Happily, the people that have been in my ex-wife was here at the Palladium the other night, Jay, you know, and she comes around here a lot, and the ex-wives are friendly, which is lovely together, you know. So there's never been any real. If you've got good health, and you've got love, and you've got laughter in your life, you've got a good recipe there. I mean, you can't really ask for a lot more than that. And if you want to be miserable, well, it's up to you. Some people are going to be miserable no matter what you say or do. They almost like it, I think. They think they like to have a moan. Not me.
Yeah, I'm very aware you're not a moaner. Not to get personal.
I don't know what she's talking about, folks. I did my best. I need 48 hours notice usually. Anyway, carry on.
Well, you've laughed, you know, you've had a career that is around laughter. Did you ever have a plan B of, well, what if this stops working out?
You see, you're being negative. You can't be negative. You can't ever say, what if this doesn't work? I just knew it would work out. I just knew it would get better. My career has not been one of those zoom straight up to the clouds. Bit by bit, it builds. There were times when I used to be nervous about going on the stage at night. In the afternoons, I'd go to a movie or the cinema and almost be physically ill, thinking about, tonight, well, what if I forget the jokes? But then there came a time when suddenly you think, I can do this. And I thought of a couple of jokes there. It wasn't jokes I'd heard before, they were my jokes. And I can put another couple. And suddenly you're looking forward to it. Not only looking forward to it, it's now the best 2 hours of any day I do. Apart from the Palladium, which was only 15 minutes, because they wanted a full show. But 50 minutes is enough laughter anyway for anyone.
Yes, it's a good daily dose, more than most people probably get.
Yeah, probably.
But we have something in common, you and I. Two things in common.
It's getting worse, folks.
We both have interviewed Will Smith, and even more uniquely, we both worked in a shoe factory.
Well, that's right, but you made better shoes than me. You made them for Playboy Bunnies, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, well, I just made them for a gentleman called Captain, we'll call him Captain Hacking Cough, if you like, and he was whittling on his boots, and the stains were appearing on the toe caps. And I had to write a letter and tell him. That was very difficult. Dear sir, the problem is I couldn't do that. And eventually someone said to me, all you do is send him the research report from the factory and say, which is self-explanatory, which I did. That's called passing the can. So all was well, it was fine, yeah. But not any real down, deep, sad moments. You know, losing your parents is always a blow. But apart from that, that was the only cloud ever in my sky that I could recall as a youngster, thinking one day Mum and Dad won't be here. But, you know, you can cope. And my dad had lived for 53 years with my mother, and my job then, I knew was instinctively, was to take care of him, look after him, get him laughing, get him giggling. And he was always making me laugh anyway. I remember we went for a walk and went to a pub one day, and this fellow said to me, Mr. O'Connor, they're your own teeth. He said, they ought to be, I paid 50 quid for them. Just little silly little nonsense, things like that. And every time he made a joke, made me laugh, it just made me love him a little bit more, made me determined one day to try and spread a little of that joy.
They sound amazing parents because they looked after you, of course, when you had the problem and couldn't walk. So, I mean, you were a high-maintenance child.
Well, I was quite good, they told me. I didn't complain that much. Well, I didn't know there was a world out there. I didn't know there was another world outside that, where I was living in that room, apart from when I was pushed out, you know, to go to a hospital or something. But they were marvellous parents, my mum and dad. My dad had the sense of humour, my mother had the voice. So she was the one that got me singing, and 15 million records, and they're all in my garage.
Wow.
No, it's done some pretty good, you know. And when you go onto the theatre of the Palladium, you can do a bit of comedy. I mean, I was booked in the MGM Grand at Las Vegas, first of all with Helen Reddy. And then I was told, we've got this message, she's happy for you to do the support act, but no singing, just the jokes.
Oh.
So we wrote back and said, thank you, but no thank you. Then I was booked with Shecky Green, the American comedian. And I got a wonderful message back saying, God damn it, love it, no jokes, just sing.
Oh.
So then I was booked with the Carpenters. I was told you could do what you want. Then they were ill. Then eventually I was booked with Red Skelton, who said, do whatever he wants to. as long as it's not too much on the comedy side. And it was brilliant. And nobody was fantastic. So I remember going on there and going into the MGM Grand and looking at that room. Along the walls, I don't know if you know the MGM, I don't know if it's still the same.
Yeah, I've been to the MGM Grand.
They've got pictures of all the film stars that used to appear in the big MGM movies. And as I stood there, I suddenly got a gag routine going in my head. I said, most hotels, it worries me, how do you get back to your room? But not here. I go straight down that room, that passageway there. I turn left at Judy Garland, right at Mickey Rooney, go past Marilyn Monroe and get into bed with Boris Karloff, which got a heck of a laugh. And I suddenly thought, well, that's great because it pertains to here and it's about this place. People love that. People love it when you go out of your way. I can't do the same jokes every night. It would drive me insane. It's nice just to ad-lib and clown around, you know.
Yeah, well, you're very good at it. You're so quick with writing. I mean, I've seen you have to do events where you're writing for a certain thing and you come up with material so quickly.
Well, it's part experience, it's part confidence, it's part being brave and saying, well, let's say. You know, I used to worry too much about, you know, making sure I said the right thing at the right time. But now I just go for it. And usually it's the right decision. You know, you make you're instantly checking as you go along. Because I'm a bit of an old-fashioned comic. I don't swear like some of the youngsters do today. Not criticising them. It's just a different style, a different approach. I find that it works for me. You know, just gentle humour. And, you know, they say humour doesn't travel. That's not true. Because I think what they're basically saying is what they mean, or they should mean, is make sure you know your homework. I mean, if I go to America, I can't say pavement, I have to say sidewalk. I don't say chemist, I say drugstore. And little things like that make the difference between a joke flying or not flying. And you can always make fun of the local humour. Things like have a nice day and all those sort of things. We don't say that here. You just try and use whatever you can for whatever subject would seem right at that time, you know, for that area.
You were on the Ed Sullivan Show.
I was on the Ed Sullivan Show 3 times.
And so was it your choice that you didn't stay and spend more time in America?
No, I was booked to do odd Sunday nights, the odd Sunday. They came to see me at the Palladium and I was on with Lena Horne. And the guy, I think Jack, can't quite remember.
Jack Benny?
No, it wasn't Jack Benny, no, there was a booker who booked the talent. And they booked me for the Palladium. And when I didn't, they said 4 months' time, and I thought, well, that's a long time, but we'll do it, we're not going to knock it back. And when I finally went there, and I suddenly realised it was March the 17th, which is an Irish...
St. Patrick's Day.
It's St. Patrick's Day, and my name's O'Connor. So I suddenly thought, hello, this is what's happening here. And I remember I did this show, and Ed Sullivan called me over in that wonderful, sweet way of his and said, thank you, I can't do an impression. Thank you to Des O'Connell from Cork. So he said, where are you from? I said, Ireland. What part? I said, Cork. And he thanked me and he invited me back. And Des O'Connell went back, but Des O'Connell did the show.
At least they didn't have Google back then, so nobody was Googling Des O'Connell.
It was lovely. All great. Doing those shows, you know, you suddenly realise the difference. There is a difference. You've got to speak just a little bit slower, enunciate just a little clearer, and don't worry about it being special for America. You know, you can bring as long as you, I believe that humour is international, and the only way to prove it when you're doing humour is you get a laugh. And happily we did, yes.
Did you want to spend more time in America? I mean, I know that you got married and you had a family. So
I didn't have them in America. I didn't meet anybody in America. It's true, I would have liked to spend some more time, but I did eventually go back, as I say, for 2 years of Des O'Connor tonight. It was then shown as the Kraft Music Hall. J. Walter Thompson was the publicity agent, I know. I couldn't believe that. I remember I went down for breakfast one morning, and there was something like 9 reporters around a big table. And they said, right, we've done that, now we're going to do the studios. I said, what? And they took me from studio to studio, and I would be rushed onto one of the talk shows, and just shows that were on at that moment. Just here's a guy who's going to be on our screens from Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, da-da-da-da-da. And then I'd be off again 45 seconds later. Only in America would that happen, where you do something like 15 plugs in a night.
Like
in
a
the morning.
press junket,
It was, like
basically.
it was like a junket, yeah. It was great fun, though. You learn a lot.
Yeah. And so were you well received over there? Your
Well,
comedy?
I've still got the tomatoes to prove how well we were received. Yeah, you know, people said to me, and that's how I went into a talk show, because that was more of a variety show. People said to me, why aren't you this funny at home? That this is my team. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you're so funny when you went out there and you just started clowning around. I said, well, you know, I didn't have a script. I didn't know 4 minutes or 5 minutes when you've got one eye on the clock. And you can't time jokes when humour is being tailored, taped. When it's real, it's of the moment humour, things that just happen. You know, I gave a few examples. I think the other night they played him. Things that just happened, you didn't expect. The other night somebody yelled out, "Is that your own hair? Is it a wig?" So I turned around and said, what kind of a person would buy a wig with a hole in the back? And that got a big laugh because I think they knew that was of that moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't a joke I did every night.
Right.
And I think it's so important that you keep humour spontaneous.
Yeah, it sounds a lot more relaxed feel when you did your American stuff than the UK stuff.
Exactly right. It's the essence of humour is things that are just happening. I mean, I was sitting on that lady's lap there. They said, God, nobody's ever sat on her lap before. I said, well, maybe she enjoyed it. I certainly did. And it was just silly. And I think the American public seemed to enjoy it. They booked us back. They didn't even book Tom Jones for a second season. But they booked us for a second season. So there you go. And that is unusual.
I mean, I didn't probably even say it, but you're the record holder. I verified this. You are the record holder of the most solo performances at the London Palladium.
Well, I'd done up until Wizard of Oz when I went in and played the Wizard, which is a production, it's a book show. But the solo performances was 1,284. That was in I don't know, but certainly the first 1,000 was in February 5th, 1972. But it's nice to know, at least you don't have to worry, would it be all right? You just know when you walk on, and they seem to sense it. I sensed it the other Sunday night when you walked out there. I walked out and I could feel, this sounds so cliche, but I could feel the waves of love coming up. I could just feel this audience, they're enjoying this, they're loving it. And that brings out the best in you and helps you to relax.
I mean, I was privileged to be in the audience, and that's exactly how I felt, was all of these people love you, and they've loved you for many years. It's not a fleeting thing. In fact, I have a little tale to tell you. I met your record-holding fan.
Well, just before you do that, let me tell you what Bob Hope said. He said he doesn't have an act. He has a love affair with the audience, which is lovely. So tell me about this fan.
Yeah, well, I met your fan. Jodie said this is your longest-running fan who's been your fan for 40 years. Charles, who was all dressed very spiffy, and he owns the Coach Company. He was telling me all about it. Well, he was having a trouble at the bar, because at the London Palladium, they wouldn't give him a drink.
No.
Because, I know, surprising, right? Apparently you had to have drink tickets. And he said, well, I've used my drink tickets. I just want to buy a drink. And they wouldn't sell him a drink. And I knew he was your longest, most supportive fan. That's at least how he introduced himself. Yeah. So I thought, out of respect for Des, I'm going to help this man get a drink. So I said to the lady behind the bar, there's no one in here more deserving of a drink than this man. And she goes, well, I can't. I'll have to call my manager. So the manager comes over and he says, what's the problem here? And I said, sir, this man has supported Des O'Connor for 40 years, and I feel he deserves a drink because not even Des O'Connor has been a fan of Des O'Connor for 40 years. And he gave him a drink.
Well, I'll tell him that you were the lady that did it. So, no, he's a very... It's extraordinary. I was in Spain recently. I would go there for a speech for the UNICEF for children, and they were taking pictures and they were paying for it. And then I got a tap on the shoulder, and I turned around. It was him. He was in Spain, and he then went out and bought a load of tickets and for photographs, for giving them to people. Said, "There you are, free ticket." And he's just a lovely man. All right, so he's got a few bob, bless him, but he does...
Well, he's worked hard for his few bob.
That's right, and he does his best for charity, which is very nice.
Yeah, he's worked hard. Well, here's another thing that I thought was really sweet. I complimented him because he was really dressed very sharp. So I said, I have to say, you look really good. And he says, do you know why? It's because of Des O'Connor. He said, the first time I saw him, This is going back over 40 years ago. He said, I looked at Des O'Connor and I thought, that's the smartest man I've ever seen in my life. And I made a decision in that moment that I was always going to try and be the smartest man in the room. And that's because of you.
Well, that's really nice. I said, where do you get all these suits from? He said, just went out and bought. He doesn't show off about it, he told me that in a weak moment, I think. Same story you just told me. So it's nice to have it confirmed, and I'll tell him I was speaking to the lady.
I kept stumbling upon all these things that I thought, that's so sweet, that when you were starting out, you used to hitchhike to your way home, and that Ernie Wise used to give you a lift.
Well, Morecambe and Wise, who are very famous English comedians and sadly no longer with us, I used to hitchhike home because I was earning about £5 a week, which is about what? Maybe, I don't know.
£5 would be about $7.50.
It would be about $7.50. And I couldn't afford to get home. And he said, come, we'll give you a lift. I used to sit in the back of that little Austin A30 with my knees up around my ears. And he had a reputation in the show, his show, of being mean. Well, he was not the little mean man that only breathes in. He was very kind, and they were very good to me. I have not met many people in fact, I can't recall anyone in the business that you'd say, oh, I don't want to meet him again. Even the guests that we had, one that was slightly grumpy or slightly off. But it's up to the host to get the best out of the people, to get them relaxed, get them laughing if you can. Once they hear that laughter, they'll relax with you. People haven't sussed it out yet, but check me out now, folks. Next time I introduce a guest, before they're sitting down, I'm talking to them about their suit or their shirt or their hair and saying, where did you buy those boots? My goodness me. And they're already they've forgotten they're doing an interview and they're talking about their boots or their shoes. And so to get them relaxed is the most important thing. If you get an audience laughing with you, they immediately feel, oh, this is good. This is like being in the front room, enjoying themselves.
Well, Morecambe and Wise, which anybody in the UK will know, you were a staple punchline for them with your singing and your albums. And they used to definitely have a lot of insults. Did you ever feel a little bit knocked?
I didn't mind in the least because, I joked that it happened on a Saturday night. It happened every Saturday night for about 10 years, but Eric was such a funny man. And they were professional enough to know that they can get a laugh. What happened was the first time I was in the studio as a guest watching the show. And so they threw a line in about me and he got a big roar. And Eric, being Eric, said, let's do another one next week. They got a big roar. And then suddenly everyone, everywhere, wherever I get into a taxi, you're not going to sing, are you? And wherever I went, whatever I did, it would be Eric and Ernie jokes about how badly I sang. I began to worry, to answer your question, is this going to affect my career? The weird thing is every time they did an show, the more albums we sold. It didn't seem to matter in the least. I remember saying to once, I've just done a one-man show. Well, let's hope two turn up next time. It was just a fun thing that it was started out as a private joke, became a national pastime. Everyone was doing it.
I mean, people used to, it just was the gag of the singing, like, oh, we need a weapon, send them Dez's records kind of thing. Do you think you were more in the public's mind for the good because of these bad jokes?
I think the name is still there. I mean, I did worry, getting back to your question, because the kids, my girls, daughters, were at school at that time, and they were getting sweets thrown at them and bread, rolls, and your dad's rubbish, because they were kids can be cruel to each other, and they were just following the television gag. But fun enough, a lot of those kids today come round and pay to come in.
Right.
So and my kids understand it. My own daughters understand it. And I've got a son now. You're worn out there in Radio Land. He's on his way. He can sing, he can dance, he can play the piano, he can play the drums. It's a new day, you've been warned.
He's super talented. I mean, Adam, I'm already a fan of Adam and his piano playing. Yeah. He's so talented.
He's a fan of yours as well. I'm a bit worried about him.
Yeah, well, I sort of refer to him as my substitute son because he's the child I spend time with,
he's lovely.
Which is great.
He loves seeing you.
How do you feel about Adam if he goes into entertainment?
If he wants to do it, he'll have 100% from his father. What I will not do and do not want to do is to push him into that. I think the fact that, I remember thinking one day, people are laughing at me, and because normally I couldn't do anything. As I say, I wasn't very good at school, I wasn't very academic. But when people start laughing, it's very difficult for anyone to hit you or get cross with you if they're laughing with you. It's very difficult for anyone to be violent if you're creating laughter. And laughter is a very powerful, powerful weapon in itself if you use it the proper way. And I've been fortunate. Humour is a marvellous, marvellous weapon. I never. In fact, Mel Sykes, who was my lady partner in a comedy show I did, was in the house earlier today, and we both said, it's funny, I don't recall ever meeting you or spending more than 10 minutes with you and not laughing. We just laugh at, and we're not walking around like gagging idiots. We're just finding things to smile at. I remember Michael Grade and I were in Vegas together at the Caesars Palace Hotel. We had what we called the joke of the day. Whatever, we keep throwing jokes. That's got a good chance to be the joke of the day. And I remember once he came out of the this China shop and he'd got some China plates. So I said, I'll get the doors because you got the lunch. No, that may not sound funny at the time. But at that moment, it was just,
That's a great
laughter is it's so important in your life, I'm telling you.
I think you just said a really powerful thing when you said laughter is a weapon. It's a great weapon because it diffuses things.
You can get business things. The best, any kind of humour will help any kind of business deal or anything you're trying to set up. No matter what you're trying to do, be it heavy business, if you can set a sense of fun there, whoever you're sitting and talking with will relax and be more liable to agree with whatever you're looking for.
As you say, your son Adam, he's multi-talented already and he's studying with piano, drums, singing, dancing. Would you have a preference of which avenue he went in?
I just like him to hear people laugh. There's nothing quite like comedy is the easiest and it's the hardest thing to get. The easiest when you believe it yourself, when you believe in what you're going to do, and when you believe I can make this crowd laugh. And as you're walking out, you know you've got them in your hand. As that happened the other night. I knew before I opened my mouth, it wouldn't matter what you say, within reason, you're going to get some kind of laugh. What did I say? They say as you get older, you shrink, which is rubbish because when I get up in the morning, I find my feet are getting further away when I try to put my socks on. Now, that's us today, and it's something we can all relate to once you get past a certain age.
Yeah.
I mean, I must be nearly 25 now.
Well, exactly.
I've actually just turned 52. I was 25. Lies, Des. I'm making this up as I go along. What are we talking about now? Plums are cheap this year.
So you mostly would like Adam to be a comedian, basically.
I think if he can get people laughing, he's halfway there. Because too many performers, I'm getting on my box now, but too many performers try and be too many things. Find out what you're best at. Find out what you're best at and concentrate on it. Frank Sinatra never wrote a song in his life. Doesn't need to. He did some acting, which was fine. I think he knew he was never, apart from Here to Eternity, he knew he wasn't going to be Oscar material. But when he sang, you were captivated. And it's the same with some comics. You don't want them to sing necessarily. But if someone can do a little bit of both, like Dean Martin used to do, that's great. And I think somewhere along the line, that's where if I aimed at anything or anyone, I didn't specifically say Dean Martin. I thought, that's nice when you can get, with one hand getting people laughing, with the other hand getting people emotionally caught up in what you're singing. So I'm very fortunate got a bit of both. That's why I didn't do those original offers in Vegas to be with Helen Reddy and, people like that. Because it's no good going into a ring with one arm tied behind your back. You've got to go out and give them the best you can.
Yeah. Well, you're so unique in that you're very talented in the two sides. You've had 36 record albums.
God, you've done your homework.
I have. Do you consider yourself more a comic or a singer?
I'm an entertainer who sings and does gags. Well, does humour, if you like, rather than... I don't do jokes very often. I'm usually talking about things that happen to me, things that happen on the way or in the theatre or you think might have happened to them that night, giving examples. I think it's different from the old musical comedians who used to do a string of jokes. And I used to be the same. I hope I would remember them all. But when you suddenly go, hang on, I don't need that. I can keep talking and clowning and inventing material, if you like.
I don't mean to affect your
Do that-
anything personal there. I'm adjusting the microphone, which is in Des's lap, in a very interesting position.
What a shame it's not TV, folks.
Thank goodness it's not TV. We'd already have an X rating. So if on your tax return, if you had to pick, if your tax return didn't say entertainer, if you could only pick singer or comedian, which box would you check?
I wouldn't. I'd still stick with entertainer. I could go on and do 2 hours of singing, but people would get fed up after a while. I could do 2 hours of comedy and people would hurt and ache a little after a while. To be able to do both, that is entertainment. You know, that's when we go to the movies, we don't say, don't make me laugh or don't make me get involved. I want to get people involved and I want people to laugh. And I think I've been given, I'm going to show off now, I've been given a gift to do that. And I don't worry about it. When I have interviews with newspapers, they say, will you hope they laugh? I said, there's no hope. I know they're going to laugh. I guarantee. I don't say they might laugh. I guarantee it. And that comes from experience, confidence, and years of doing it all right. I mean, I've appeared, dare I say this, in almost every venue in the world that I can recall. The Opera House Sydney, every venue in Toronto that you can imagine, from the Royal York, which has 200 people in it, to 25,000 at the Canadian National Expo. You know, it wouldn't matter where you suddenly learn how. I remember going on in Toronto, at the exhibition there, to 25,000 people in a field, and I said, God, it's so miles away. The band, half the stage was the side of it was one of these sides of the stands where the people sit, you know, in for the football match. So I said, get me a bicycle. So they said, what do you want to buy? I said, give me a bicycle. And I wrote, raindrops are falling on my head. And I'd cycle around every time I wanted to talk to the MD. I got on the bike, cycled over to him. It became a roar. People knew I was going to do a song, and it was just a fun thing. Use the moment. Use whatever you can to get the laugh.
Why do you think that entertainers today don't have these double things, like there's comedians and the singers? There don't seem to be people like you anymore.
It's a different audience. The comic today has to go out every night, almost every night, to a different room with a different crowd at a different time. I was fortunate I would go and do 12 shows in a week in Variety, and 6:15 and 8:30, and the people weren't drunk. They may have had a couple of drinks, but they weren't drunk. Whereas young comics are walking on today, they're getting heckled, they're in nightclubs, they're getting different crowds. It's not easy for them. They can't really relax. So therefore they stick with what they know best, be it comedy or very rarely, if you like, do you go out to and spend an evening in a club and hear a singer sing for an hour and a half. Very rare. You can put up with a comic because you're laughing and you're having a few drinks, and the odd song now and again is fine. So basically all I've tried to do, and I've learned from it, is give them what they want. They paid. I got in for nothing. You know, just get in there and send them home with a smile on their faces. That's the most important thing of all. It's not a big deal thing we're doing.
With your comedy, did you ever have a crack at impressions?
Yes, I did. Don't ask me to do them now.
I won't.
But you know, I could do the odd thing. There was a comedian called Joe Lockwood who was over here, and I wrote a routine called "You're Nobody Till Somebody Does You," and then he worked in a tree. We did the Dean Martin and the Maurice Chevalier and the obvious ones that everybody does, you know. But I've tried it, but I'm not very good at it. Are you good at it?
Well, I would say I don't try and do impressions. I've got a few characters, but not celebrities.
Is it because are we egotistical, you and I? Do we think, no, I do it better than they do anyway?
I mean, you have a right to be egotistical. I haven't got accomplishments that warrant I be egotistical.
I've seen this girl, ladies and gentlemen, and she's very good. If you want to book her for stand-up, take my word, she's very funny.
You heard it from the man. Let me see.
See, she's gone quiet now.
Yeah, I have gone quiet.
Makes a change, I'm telling you, folks.
Oh, yeah. So I've watched loads of your clips because I can watch them over and over again from your show, the comedy ones. And I send them around to people. I contribute to the viralness of the clips, like Rod Hull and Emu.
Yeah.
I've sent that to so many people because I gasp for air when I watch that clip. And I'm going to make sure I put it with this episode so people can check it out. It looks so violent. Did you actually get hurt in that clip?
Well, if I did, it was my own fault because I wrote the sketch. When I said, let's get that guy on as a guest because they loved it when I was vulnerable, when I looked like something was going to happen to me. And the moment he brings that emu on, you know he's not just going to stick it. He put it on his arm and it became real. When he put that thing on his arm, he became a monster. There's only one thing, that beak where place he wanted to go, and by golly, I couldn't ride a bike for a week after that. It was just lovely. That particular sketch you're talking about, where I was a vet and Rod brought the emu in with a sore throat, I said, look, and I got a couple of ideas for gags, and I said, let's just see where it goes. I knew that he was going to cut loose once he got me out there. But I didn't realise I was going to be thrown over a couch.
I mean, you had the stethoscope round your neck.
Could have strangled me.
It looked like you were being strangled. They grabbed the stethoscope and it was dragging you around by the neck. Like, it genuinely looks like you are in peril.
Well, for a little while I probably was. But no, all went well. You just knew when the emu turned up, he was going to go. I mean, in a Royal show once when I saw the Queen Mother coming down the line, I should say. It felt like the lane. And she's heading towards the emu, and I thought, oh my God, no, not the Queen Mother. I actually said a prayer. Please God, not the Queen Mother. The Duke of Edinburgh, yes, go for her, the Prince Charles, but not the Queen. I had a vision of her lying on her back, the emu whistling up the Valley of Tears. But we got away with it. She was wonderful. It's a lot of fun.
Did the emu do a joke with her?
Well, what happened was she had a little posy with flowers. And then as she walked by the emu, she said, oh, emu, you're such a funny little fellow. And he went, boom, and it grabbed the flowers, and it whipped a lot out of her hand, and she was left holding a bunch of stalks.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
So, it's funny. It's just visually funny. I did try to do visual things as well as the singing and the talking. If something visually is funny, that sticks in the memory.
You did a funny one with the Muppets, too.
We brought the Muppets here. We brought them here for the very first time. I hadn't seen them as the Muppet Show. I saw them on Sesame Street, and Bert and Ernie I fell in love with, and they were really funny. And we brought them over as the production team from America. We were going to put my show on, and I remember that Miss Piggy was the wardrobe mistress, I think. Anyway, I've got it somewhere. I've got the clip of it. But how lucky am I to have worked with all these fantastic people? Whoever you've named, most of the people have been on the show.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, this list I've got here of 26 years of guests, it's like the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Yeah. I mean, I wrote down just some people that I'm fascinated with, like Joan Rivers.
Joan said to me, you know what she made me laugh? She said she hated homework that women have to do. She said you have to do all that homework.
Housework. Is housework? Is that what you mean,
That's
housework?
Right, yeah. That's right. She said you have to do all this housework, and then 6 months later you got to do it all again.
That's brilliant. Oh, and you had, and I don't know if you'll be able to tell me if it's true, did Jay Leno get his set?
Yes.
He got his set on your show.
When I went to America to do the craft musical, which, as I say, ran for 2 years, I used to go out to the nightclubs and watch comics and see comics. And I said, when we get back, because what my own team were telling me, I should do a talk show, but let's have some Americans on, because as I say, I believe that humour does travel if you just guide it in the right direction.
Yeah.
And Jay Leno came in, and he was very, very funny. He's a top. I preferred him. I hope he won't mind me saying this. I preferred him as a comic performing a stand-up than as a host. I thought he was so good as a stand-up, and he did 3 shows with us across 14 months. Took it back to America. They let him go on as a guest stand-up there. Then he was a guest host. Then he finally got the show.
Wow.
So, also we discovered some other American talent. Some guy called David Letterman, some guy called Gary Shandling, and some guy who did quite well called Jerry
Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld. There you go.
Wow. That is just incredible. Now, were you personally the one who saw them first, or did you have people show you the clips?
I saw a couple of them, and then another couple of clips were on. And also I'd seen David Letterman do a few things. But he came over to us and he did some weird routine about canaries and wearing rubber shoes. Oh, I remember Jerry Seinfeld doing a routine about why did they put pockets in pajamas and little things like. But it's true. Why did you see men's? I don't know whether you'd ever find it, dear, but they have men
Still waiting, Des.
have pajamas, and then they have pens sometimes. What the hell do you want, a pen or a pocket in your pajamas? I don't know.
Now, did any of these guys return the favour, given that you gave them such fodder to launch their careers? I mean, did you ever want to be on Letterman?
I went on Johnny Carson 3 times, which was great. Johnny Carson was the man. That's where I did my Hilary Brooke, Elisha Cook, Cecil B. Smith, and Freddie Buck. So it was a tribute to all the old film stars. I had to learn 517 film stars now. Wow. He was so impressed with that, you know. Because I didn't do it with cards or with cue cards or, you know, we just did it. You learn it and you do it. I did most of the American talk shows and they were wonderful. I did Jay Leno briefly, just a walk on. I didn't do a spot or anything. It just sort of was, he half introduced me and I sort of did a little spot. But not really, but most of the American comedians that were Tom DeLuise, Red Buttons, Sid Caesar, Phil Silvers, Jack Benny, Bob Hope,
George Burns.
George Burns. What was the other one? George. Can't remember the other guy's name. Little guy. I'll remember his name later for you. I'll write it to you. Folks, this is the competition. Sorry.
Not Ed Sullivan. Because
No.
he had his own show.
And you could also get Larson without even trying.
I'm trying to. Now you've got me wondering who the mystery other person is.
Well, he was a little. I can remember the sketch you were doing.
Not Jonathan Winters.
No, Jonathan Winters was. I love being with you. Jonathan Winters was one of my favourite ever interviews because I said we had nothing planned, and I said, well, you played so many parts. Let's invent something. What do you want it to be? He said, I don't mind. What do you want? What do you want? So let's have a hospital. Okay, I'm the hospital. He said, what am I? Am I the patient? Am I the doctor? I said, you're the patient. I'm the doctor. And I thought, what am I doing? I had no idea where we were going to go. So he said, well, come in and say hello to me and tell me how I'm doing. So he started again, and I walked in and said, I have good news and I have bad news for you. Oh, okay. What's the good news? We've got it. You got it? Where is it? It's in a jar on the shelf. And this sounds nonsensical. And he was nonsensical, but it was hysterically nonsensical. It was just funny. And everything he seemed to find a tag for to round it off. He was a very funny man. Is he still alive, by the way?
No, he's not.
Oh, it's a shame. He was a funny man.
And he was one of the huge inspirations for Robin Williams. Did you get a similar feeling working with
Well, you got the
both?
feeling that a lot of it was spontaneous and happening there and then. That particular night, we kept him on for about 40 minutes, even though he was only going to do 10 minutes on air.
Wow.
But we knew that it would be funny, and I hoped that we could get him back and do all that. But after that, he was locked into some show in America for a while. But I'm again fortunate about having been working with all the best of the British humour and the American humour too, and some Canadians and some Australians as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've, along with millions of people, have gotten so much joy, pure joy from watching those clips. And clearly you were having fun as well. Are there any moments that you can remember, maybe it is the Jonathan Winters one, where you just experienced such joy of fun in what you were doing and who you got to perform with?
If you looked at some of these names you got on this fantastic list here, these people, if you looked at them, you'd see almost everyone is laughing sometime, somewhere, including me. Because half the time we were ad-libbing, half the time we were filling out. I think this was the secret for Dean Martin in his own show, which I've seen on clips and things, was that he didn't rehearse it too hard, too much. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, when it goes wrong, let the public know it's gone wrong. Bring them in, let them see that it's... And I think that helps you as your own career progresses. You know, you suddenly find that you don't worry too much. Oh, I did that wrong. It doesn't matter. Just laugh with it. I love it.
Well, you've cracked up a lot in a lot of these clips. I mean, the one with Norman Wisdom becomes a sketch about cracking up.
Well, he couldn't tell you... in real life, he cannot tell you a joke without laughing. And when he goes on stage, he tries... So I said to him, I defy you to tell a joke to me I just defy you to do it. No laughing. Of course, he's going to laugh, isn't he? And it got worse and worse and more and better. And it just sent me off into reams of laughter. I just could not stop laughing because him trying to do it without laughing and me laughing because he's laughing. And then the audience is suddenly laughing, and it's very contagious, the right kind of laughter.
Yeah. Well, you were laughing so much. I wondered, you seem very comfortable with corpsing, they say, or cracking up.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever actually try not to crack up?
No. Only with Jack Benny, who said to me once, I'm going to walk in and ask you how much is the tie. I was supposed to be the salesman. And you're going to have to say to me $2,400. He said, and I will stare at you. And that's all I'm going to do. $2,400. And you just stare back at me for as long as you can. Well, it seemed to be going forever. How much is the tie? It's $2,400. And it was the laughter that came from that moment was magical, you know.
Did you crack up?
No, towards the end I might have half smiled and looked away. I learned a lot from him. He taught me. He said to me once, "What you want to do, learn to do, is to do nothing really well. Learn to do nothing really well. And when if someone's going to get a laugh on your show, don't worry about it. Give them a joke if you can, because they won't be back next week. You will on your show." I remember him saying to me, when they take pictures, never get on the end, because they can cut you off.
Oh! Wow, that's really smart.
He was lovely, Jack Benny. And I remember Bob Hope. I think that we finished the playing with a few lines from "Thanks for the Memory," and his line was, I said, "Don't worry about it if you forget it. We put the words down there on the monitors for you." And he went, "Thanks for the memory. I'd really like to say you're just the greatest, Des." "Well, do you really mean that, Bob?" "Well, that is what it says." And I'd written the gag out there for him. So there are little moments like that. Let the public in. Let them know. Let them see that it's ad-lib, you know. It works.
Yeah. Well, there was a paper when you just did the Palladium, you and Jimmy Tarbuck shared a little piece of paper. And I thought that was very adorable because we all knew you weren't, it was new.
The one run-through that we had, Natalie, the one run-through, we got it all wrong. We got it all wrong. So I said, when you come out tonight, if you're not sure and we don't want to mess it up at that stage, I said, just read it and I'll read it with you. And the fact that we read it, I think the public loved it.
Oh, we did. It was because you also knew, wow, these guys have not had proper time to rehearse. No. So you share in that moment with you. I think that's lovely.
It's not a hard job to do if you enjoy it.
Right.
So, you know, if it becomes work, you should get. That's another thing Jack Benny said. When it becomes work and you can't enjoy it, get another job. Don't do it, because he was a classic example of not trying too hard and yet getting roars of laughter. So I've been very fortunate. This is better than working, you know. I don't like work.
When you came out on Sunday at the Palladium, do you have any kind of nerves in your heart?
You have a slight apprehension and hoping that it'll go as well as you think it might, or you believe it will. That I just knew when we walked on. He was one of the original hosts of Sunday Night at the London Palladium when it was a TV series. That's Jimmy Tarbuck. And I played there so many times, and I know that room, I know that crowd, I know that feeling. And I thought, when we walk out together, the roof is going to go up. And and you know, it did. And then it's up to you just to do the laughter. And again, silly little joke. I wrote a couple of jokes, and there was one joke we did, which was the last time we worked together was at the Royal Albert Hall for the 100th Royal Variety performance. And there were a lot of female lady stars there, obviously, and they were all in one room, which they called the Intercontinental Suite. And then there was me, when I'm knocking on the beer, Tarbuck, who was also knocking on the beer, Ronnie Corbett, who's older than the pair of us, and Bruce Forsyth was older than all of them. So that was called the Incontinent Suite. Now that, silly as that may sound, got a howl of laughter. And I think it's important that you just do something to fit the occasion if you can.
If I go through a gap of not performing, I'll do a show and I might have a feeling like my heart is going to come out of my chest. When's the last time you can remember feeling really strong nerves like that?
First of all, don't worry about feeling that, because that's natural, because without being too hard on you, you're just a slip of a child. You're a young little girl. Now, in terms of comedy, I think it's harder for women. I don't believe women can be funny until they're 45 or 50. I really don't. I certainly don't believe the comics can be funny until they're 45. I don't think that they'll have... Today they might with certain areas they'll touch on, but humour comes from experience. And you, I sound like I'm doing a commercial for you now, but you, when you've got some experience under your belt, when you believe in it yourself, you won't have any worries. You'll just go, come on, let's get this on the road, and you'll believe it's going to get laughs, and it will. It takes a lot of bravery to stand there alone and do it. As I say, it's the easiest or the hardest job in the world to do. To stand on, and I've had that happen. It happened to me once in Glasgow, where I didn't know that when you walk on it, the national sport of Scotland, nobody told me the national sport of Scotland was go to the Empire on a Friday night and wait for the English comic. Nobody told me. And I went on there, and I remember there was David Hughes, and there was an American comedian called Dick Shawn, I think so, and they were laughing at him. You know, I'd seen them laugh at him, and I thought, well, they're going to laugh at him over here. And I walked on the stage, and it was awful. I could hear the silence. And when you can hear the silence when there's 3,000 people out there, it's not very funny. That's when I threw my famous faint.
This is my favourite comedy story.
But it's true.
What you're about to say, I hope, this is my favourite, hands down. No even close competition to this comedy story. Please.
It's only because you want to go on there and have a go. I walked on the stage, and I was upstairs getting changed, and suddenly the lady, I have to explain that just prior to the show, the lady who was going on with her with her husband to sing these songs, squeeze boxes, what do you call them? Accordion.
Accordion, yeah.
We're going to sing Will You Know, Come Back Again, and all these Scottish songs. Sadly and tragically, her husband was killed about 2 weeks beforehand, and it was all over the newspaper. But she said, I'm still going to go on, but I'm going to do it with my nephew. So she became Dorothy Reed and Mac, as opposed to Dorothy Reed and Mackenzie. They went on. They tried to get through the act. The audience gave them, it was like a church. The audience gave them this wonderful reception. And suddenly she burst into tears when they were saying, Will you know, come back again? And she ran up to the stage, and somebody said, God, it's like a blooming battlefield. Get him down here. I was half ready. I wasn't completely... They literally threw me on the stage, and I walked on, trying to do jokes. Well, it's not the time for jokes, I can tell you that. But I've heard about as funny as a road accident. And then I went on, and I remembered saying to myself, you've just told that joke. You have. No, I have. Yes, you have. You're telling it again. What? Well, wait till I get to the end. You didn't get a laugh the first time. Oh, my God. Well, and I thought, about 4 or 5 minutes in, I thought, I can't stand this anymore. I remember the MD's head came over the footlights because I threw a faint. I went down in a heap.
But you didn't really faint, right?
Oh, no, I'm saying I can't do this anymore. I don't need this kind of in my life. And the MD's, Tommy McLeod, his head came over the footlights. He pulled himself up and he said, is this in the act? Is this a part of the act? I said, no, I fainted. Get me off. Two big arms came up from behind the curtain and dragged me up through the back of the theatre, behind the curtain. Eric Morecambe, years later, that famous comedian, said he was the only comic I've ever seen that sold advertising space on the soles of his shoes. But, you know, I got through it. Happily, I got through it, but it was an emotional scar when on the Saturday night. We got through it, you know, just to do it. It was horrible. It was a horrible week. But then I went back 8 times in how many years? About 6 years. And I had a whole house when I did the one-man show. This is quite a few years later, about 7 or 8 years later. And the whole audience did sing Will You Know, Come Back Again to me. And I went into the room, and I don't mind admitting I actually cried. It was such an emotional scar healed.
Yeah.
And that's someone once said to me, the only time I've ever seen you die was Glasgow Empire. Were you there? Yes, I was. I said, oh, God. And, you know, happily, that doesn't happen too often these days. You learn how to cope if things are not perfect.
Apparently you just fake a faint.
Not these days. I'd rather walk off, especially if you're wearing rubber shoes. You can still make more noise than fainting.
Have you ever had a show that was even remotely as bad as that?
I was once booked to do a New Year's Eve in Aberdeen, stand-up comedy and a couple of songs for 150 Norwegian oil workers who didn't speak English. That was a big fun evening, that was. I did the same thing at the Talk of the Town. I remember the head waiter came around to the head waiter and he said, hey, Mr. Dead, I got a good news and I got a bad news. I said, what's the good news? It's full. There's not a seat anywhere. The places are full. They're hanging from the lights. What's the bad news? They're all Korean. It was bought out by Korean Airways. There was one English person on each table, so you'd tell a joke, and you'd hear the English person go, ah, and then there's a delay while he told the joke. And then there's the second laugh. We got through it. But these are the things that you learn. I'm fortunate I've not had too many of the bad experiences.
Even when you had your television show, I remember seeing a clip, and I want to know the anxiety, whether you felt it or not. You had a beauty queen come out, and she didn't speak English.
Well, someone thought it was a good idea for me to have Miss World as a guest. And they said it's going to be the night before the Albert Hall. You'll get she'll be straight coming off her first TV show anywhere in the world as Miss World. Will you want her? I said, yes, of course, that's great. What I didn't think of at the time was they get them down to 15, and the last 15 then interviewed, brief interviews, possibly. Now, 14 of them spoke English. The one that didn't, won it.
Oh, dear.
Miss Venezuela. And I introduced her, and she literally fell down the stairs. Not all the way, but fell part of the staircase. And I remember my saying one more, which was, uno más, por favor. That was all I could say, which was one more, please. But it was just another funny moment. It's not funny in description. You have to see it. Because I went out and had to live with the crowd. Because I introduced her again and she didn't turn up the second time.
I mean, were you feeling, though, panic?
Well, no, you can't feel panic because the roars of laughter, and you're doing a comedy show, that if it gets laughed, this is meant to be laughed. And you can always explain it. When you do something wrong, when I was playing The Wizard of Oz at the Palladium again, there was a moment I'm discovered as a bit of a phony, the professor is. That's the wizard. He's discovered as a phony. And I've got the lion, got Dorothy, got the Tin Man, Straw Man, all standing around and they're looking at me and I have to walk forward and say, I'm sorry, there was no other wizard except me. And as I said, I tripped over the yellow brick road and fell flat on my face. Oh. And I got up and I said, and what kind of a wizard am I? I can't even walk properly, which of course brought the house down. But little moments like that, if you just try and hide it that you fell over, everybody's going to be holding breath.
Yeah.
Just laugh with them.
Yeah.
Let them know that it's a piece of fun. It's not an operation we're doing.
When the Miss Venezuela was on, was that a live or a taped episode of your show?
Well, it depends. They weren't all taped. We tried that later on, but they were live almost. It was the next night, and it was done in front of an audience. And you could edit if someone said something rude or nasty. You could edit, take it out.
Because one of your guests resulted in them not doing the show live anymore. Is that correct? Stan Boardman.
That's right.
Stan Boardman.
He came on and started to talk about German airplanes called Fokker-Wulfs. And the show was live. And he said it 22 times. And he never said the wolf bit once.
Oh!
So we had 22 Fokkers on the Desert Cottage show. And it was just dreadful. So I was never so pleased to get him off and get somebody else on. And I turned to Colin Keyes, who was my then MD, who never smiled. He was another non-smiler. I said, who's next? And he said, Oliver Reed. Now, Oliver Reed is known for doing talk shows when he's had a few, when he's drunk a few. And he walked on, and he arrived. Well, he didn't walk on, he arrived. And another 22 Fokkers fell out of the sky. He breathed on me. But then I remembered that he got a tattoo somewhere. I read that in the Woman's Own. You can trust the Woman's Own.
Yes.
It's not like Cosmopolitan. Cosmopolitan tell you how to have an orgasm, and Woman's Own will tell you how to knit one. It's the other way around. Anyway, we had lived our way through it. We got all the way through it. But those are moments which nothing worries you anymore. When you've been here, I once did a show, as I say, with Georgie Best, who was drunk, Oliver Reed, who was drunk, Freddie Starr, who was naughty. It was just a shocking show. I think it was a plot to get me off of TV.
What was Freddie Starr doing that was naughty?
Everything. I just can't repeat all the things. He would come and dressed up as Hitler, and I was singing "When Joanna Loved Me" with a beautiful fountain behind me, and he walked on dressed up as Hitler in Wellington boots, with an octopus. And this isn't funny explaining it to you. You have to see it.
Did you know?
No,
I knew.
I said to him, you know Freddie will be on here. You know he'll walk on. Just let him have his way. You know. and I'll react accordingly. And which I did. Sometimes I would know. I mean, I walked over him at the end of that particular spot while the credits were running to tell him, pretend that I was annoyed with him. And he grabbed my tie and pulled me in the fountain with him. And I was covered in muck and water and that's all part of I think the public loved it because they knew when he was on, I was liable to get drenched, drowned, shove things up my jumper and whatever. So it's just having fun out there and getting across to the audience. And so you're not swearing and you're not doing anything violent. You're not doing anything slanderous. There's no war bombs. No, it's just a laugh.
Yeah.
I'm an old-fashioned entertainer, if you like. I just like to entertain. I don't want to shock people. I don't want to educate them. I just want them to smile and to laugh and sit back and relax with you and laugh with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes laughing at you as well, especially when you do the visuals. We've done a little mix, a cunning mix of both over the years.
I mean, there's not a lot you haven't done because you got to be an actor in your show with all the sketches and you were really good. I mean, did you ever have aspirations to do more acting in a sitcom or anything?
It's the one thing, are you listening out there in Radio Land? And then if this goes to America, it's the one thing I've always wanted to do and never done. Never even been offered to be a part in a film or a movie. And that I know I could do. God, you've got a great director. You can do some of it again if you don't get it right. You know, when you're on a live stage, you're on a live stage. You can't say, I made a mistake. Can I do it again? You can do it again, but you tell them, that went wrong, and you laugh with it. But in a movie, I'd love to do a movie. So to answer your question, I would love to have done.
What kind of film role is your perfect film role?
Well, I would have thought somewhere between Dick Van Dyke, Cary Grant, somewhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, there was a time when I was a little more live, more younger lad, that we could have thrown a bit of cod romance in there as well.
No, I can see you totally doing. And would you want to be a good guy or a bad guy?
Well, my daughter said to me, Dad, you're always the good guy. You're always smiling. You're always laughing. Why don't you play a really evil person, a murderer of some sort? I said, what are you serious? I said, try it, Dad. They'll love it. So maybe I might. If someone offers me the part, I might.
Yeah, well, I'm meeting people at Pinewood Studios, so I'll put the word out for you.
He wants it, the bad man.
I mean, you're such a phenomenal writer. Why haven't you just written a movie?
Because no one would believe it. They'd say, no, Des will be Des. He'll always be... I'm a bit like Michael Caine. I'll always be me. Michael Caine is always Michael Caine. In a funny kind of way, Cary Grant was always Cary Grant. I don't care what you say, Inspector. That man tried to kill me last night. It's not a very good impression. I can't do impression. But you can always be the same person. You know, sometimes you're always the same person. The important thing is when they sit down in that seat and I'm coming on, they know they're going to enjoy what, you know, if they've been foolish enough to pay the money to come in to see me. I remember the other day, there's a lady came around and said, there's no program. I said, well, I can get you a program if you want it, love, but all it'll give you is the name of the local chemist shop, a drug store, if you like, it's from America. I said, there's only me on the show. You know, nobody else to worry about. You don't need a program. Save you £3 there. So, no, it's lovely. How lucky am I to be part of a business which you can go on to this age. I must be nearly 50 now.
Yeah, and you don't look a day over 49, so...
Yes, I look a lot older than that. But however, we're doing it and we're having a great time, and it's just wonderful.
Through you, I've gotten to meet other people such as Robert Lindsay and Bruce Forsyth who've had extensive careers. I mean, do you have showbiz friends that you kind of hang out with?
Well, as I say, Mel Sykes was here earlier today, and if any of the mates want to come in, they're more than welcome. They know that. And we've had parties in the piano room downstairs there, like a Royal Variety performance, you know. Sadly, Cilla Black, who we just lost, passed away. She didn't want to come because her husband it was going to be her first Christmas alone. And I went out and got her in the snow and brought her. Said, come on in. Saturday. She left at 3:45 in the morning.
Wow.
They were all singing and dancing and having fun. So I'm very fortunate. Jodie and my wife is steeped in showbiz. And she achieved something with us. She got up and sang at the Palladium, which they loved.
I mean, she's a phenomenal singer.
Sing,
she sings like a Celine Dion and a Whitney Houston.
Well, you said the two which people have been saying. It's great. The fact that she can do that, I can do that. We've got piano player friends who sit down and play piano with us. And we have great fun show business party evenings. Very lucky. The more I think about it, how fortunate we've been, you know. Thank God, just enjoying being part of the business, being able to. I've never wanted to show off in it, though. I've never felt the need to show off. People come up saying, "Oh, we saw you at so-and-so, we saw you so you haven't changed." I thought, well, I hope the jokes have changed. but it's so nice to be part of a really wonderful profession.
Yeah, well, you're a big fibre in the fabric of entertainment. In this country, I mean, you're a through line from days of the music hall and vaudeville. You've experienced a full spectrum.
Well, I did I did a television series in Australia. I did a mini series in Canada. I did a whole 2 years of television in America, and been here a few times.
Yeah.
Television for 60 years, so it's a long time.
The time when you were in your career and the movies started to come out and the theatres started to close down, did you ever kind of think, oh, this is going to just fizzle out?
I just thought, oh, they won't blame it on me, the theatre's closing down. No, you could tell they were going to go. But, you know, I was then shunted into shows which mixed pop stars and variety. I did a tour with Buddy Holly, tragically and sadly the only tour he ever did in this country. But he was lovely. He told like that. He came from Lubbock, Texas. It was just wonderful. And I've done all sorts of shows. I was even a clown in a circus for one day. It's not funny, I didn't like the fact that they frightened the little kids who were with me. Well, the clowns with the white faces would come over and blow their clarinets, and it frightened some of the kids. And I said to the guy, I won't say which circus it was, I said, you know, I think those traditional clowns frighten the little kids a bit. Well, they've always done it. I said, well, do they need it? Well, if you think you can do it, you do it better, you can do it yourself. I said, well, can I do it one day? And they let me go on there one day, and I went on with baggy pants and went up and down, you know, elastic pant trousers, and it looked like steam was coming out of my trousers with a pot of tea in there. It was some kind of stuff we put in it. And the kids loved it, and I didn't even have a false nose. I just did it as me, with the baggy trousers. And I loved it. It's always a challenge, the business. It's lovely making people laugh.
Yeah, well, you're the expert on making people laugh. I promise you we're almost done. I just want to check I haven't forgotten the question that I'm going to
I've had to shave twice, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I guess the very last thing is just the comedy's changed so much, and I've had the privilege of being able to hear your input and advice and on comedy, and you've told me just, you know, get a lot of stage time, and it's so much harder now because there's so many comedians, and I just wondered what sort of thoughts you had for comedians today who are trying to make it when there's so much more competition and probably fewer outlets than there used to be.
I think comedy is a new rock and roll. You're right there. There's comedians coming out, and some of them are very, very good indeed. Some of them need a lot of advice. I don't want to tell them what they should or shouldn't do, but I think they have to try to be a little bit different. And by being different, that's not doing what other people have done that are successful. That's not being different. That's copying someone. And you'll always be someone who copies. So do what you do, believe in what you do. Yeah, use a few gags work that you've heard someone else do. Only one or two, otherwise you.
My whole act's your joke, so.
Well, you're more than welcome. I wonder what I look like in a frock.
The sex jokes are awkward, but.
Yes, you don't know which way to deliver them, man. I'll say nothing. I would just say, you don't need it to swear as many times as you do swear. Not you, but the comic. Mm-hmm. I watched some comics today. It is perfectly true they're playing to 10,000 people, maybe at the O2 Arena or the Albert Hall or one of the big Wembley stadiums. But I still think a lot of that laughter they're hearing and they think is about comedy is shock laughter. And the comics we've been talking about, Bob Hope, Jack Benny, George Burns, did you ever hear them swear? No, you never would. You never, if they lived to be around today. Phil Silvers, anyway, the really good comics know that the jokes and the persona they're expressing gets the humour across. They don't need to do it. So if I was ever asked to give advice, I'm not going to lecture, but I'd just say, drop it, fellas. Stick with yourself, believe in yourself, and enjoy it. You know, even if it's not that good, still enjoy it. You can always say, what went wrong tonight? Right, we're going to drop that. We're going to try something else there. And when you try new material, here's a good bit of advice. Do just something in front of it you know works. Put it just in front of it. And as soon as that new bit is finished, do something you know works. So that if it hasn't worked that bit, well, it didn't work, but at least we tried it.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, you suddenly build yourself 10, 20, 30, 40. You suddenly find, I'm doing an hour now if I need to. It's a good feeling.
Des, it has been an honour to sit and chat with you. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Oh, she's getting weepy, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in to the Natalie Gray Day. Yay. Hey.
I'm too choked up. You've got to sign yourself off. Tell yourself thank you very much.
Well, that's been very nice talking to you, Des. Thank you very much. We'll hope you next time we'll try and work out some money for you.
That's a wrap, people.
Des O'Connor. It happened. There it was. You heard the proof. Des, I know that Jodie's going to play this for you. So on behalf of all of the people like my Aunt Diane and Uncle Derek, my mum and dad, Tanya and Barry, and your millions of devoted fans, thank you. Oh, I'm going to cry again. Okay. No, I'm good. I'm sure we will all take something different from the chat with Des. For me, what I feel resonates is the reminder how your thoughts really do shape your life. So don't complain. Continue to be grateful for whatever you have. Laughter is the best weapon, and one day maybe it will be the only weapon needed to allow everyone to live a peaceful and happy life. I'm going to embed the clips that I mentioned in this episode at thegreyescape.com so you can enjoy Rod Hull and Emu and Norman Wisdom cracking up Des, as well as links to both of Des's books, Bananas Can't Fly and Laughter Lines. I'll even put one of Jodie's songs and you can hear how amazing she is. So, Des's books are available on Amazon, by the way. And that's a wrap, people. Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this, please pop a rating and a review on iTunes. It will help other people find the show. Thank you again, Des O'Connor. And thanks to Love and Laughter, available tax-free in a moment near you. I'm Natalie Gray, and I'll catch you next time on The Grey Escape.